Hello, Rick. Let's see, audio all set. Hello, Karuna. Welcome. Thank you, Rick. Hello, Jayantha. Welcome. We'll get started in a couple minutes. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hello, Dallas. Welcome. All right. Let me bring up the chant. We'll get started. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Apicchassa yang dhammo nyayang dhammo mahicchassa. Santutassa yang dhammo nyayang dhammo asantutassa. Pavivitassa yang dhammo nyayang dhammo sanganikaramassa. Aradha viryassa yang dhammo nyayang dhammo kusitassa. Upatitassa tissa yang dhammo nyayang dhammo mutassa sittassa. Samahitassa yang Dhammo nyayang Dhammo asamahitassa. Panyavato ayang Dhammo nyayang Dhammo dupanyasa. Nippapan charamasayang Dhammo Nippapan charatino nyayang Dhammo Papan charamasa Papan charatino. Alright, English. This Dhamma is for reducing desire, not for increasing desire. This Dhamma is for increasing contentment, not for increasing discontentment. This Dhamma is for cultivating seclusion, not for becoming sociable. This Dhamma is for becoming energetic, not for becoming lazy. This Dhamma is for developing mindfulness, not for developing unmindfulness. This Dhamma is for developing composure, not for making restlessness. This Dhamma is for increasing wisdom, not for decreasing wisdom. This Dhamma is for delighting in freedom from impediments, not for delighting in impediments. Hello, Vaisakha. All right, friends, it is Monday night, and that means it's time for another Festival of Dhamma with the Maggasekha community. It's time for Dhammapalooza, where we do a variety of different Dhamma-related activities, and each Dhammapalooza is different because it's community guided. So everyone here is pretty much a regular. You know the deal. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, you can put them in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like me to give a talk on, you can put them in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like the community to discuss, you can put them in the chat. And if nobody has anything, well, there's always a sutta in the back pocket, or perhaps some sutta roulette. Hello, Gregory and Yankee. What was the, Karuna, when was the last time, or what was your suggestion, a word search in the Vinaya? We did that once, didn't we? I think that was interesting. Word roulette for the Vinaya. Did that maybe a month ago or so, I think. Oh, you know, that's right. The by numbers thing is not easy with Vinaya. It's because there's lots of different number systems, and honestly, I don't, like, for instance, I don't know an easy number system. Like, you can't say go to such and such number, such and such. I would have no idea how to find it. I just wouldn't. Because the numbering systems, a lot of it is like old PTS, and I didn't learn anything on the old PTS translations and stuff. So by number is just not going to work. Have you been to India to visit Bodh? I'm going in November. I thought I've mentioned this a few times. It's already set. I have a 10-year visa to India. Planes done. The only thing that needs to be worked on, I think, is the details while I'm in country. But it's already set. I'm going to be in India from November 26th to December 11th. Of course, I'll be seeing all the holy sites, including having to go into Nepal to see, I think, one or two of them at least. If you don't have the right setup, you can go into Nepal and then India won't let you back in. So, but thankfully I'm told that I have the right setup. 10-year entry visa to India. So. All right, we'll give it another minute or two, see if anything pops up in the chat. Then I think we'll do some Vinaya roulette. I was just reading I try to daily read at least one monastic rule, one bhikkhu rule, one bhikkhuni rule. And the last bhikkhuni rule I read was about how bhikkhunis cannot wear hip ornaments. Like you see, like in the ancient like cultures, you see like the women have like these hip dangly things. Yeah, bhikkhunis cannot wear hip ornaments. You find all those kind of interesting things when you read the monastic rules. I think that would be Sigalovada Sutta, right? In the Digha Nikaya. I think that's probably the best place. I don't know that because it's Digha Nikaya. I don't know that we want to go through the whole thing, but we can certainly share screen and go through some of the relevant sections. Oh yes, yeah. So within the numbers, like Pachitya, Nisagya Pachitya, like that's fine. That's actually no, actually now that I think about it, we could do something like that. We actually could do that. But the problem is, like, there's just hundreds and hundreds, thousands of other rules. Like, we could just stick with like the basic 200 or 300, whatever, which is fine, I guess. But like, we're never going to get a number in the, in the Kudaka Nikaya or the Kandikas, where you find all the interesting rules. But no, yeah, within the Pachityas and the Sigya Pachityas, that we could definitely do that. So that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Although I definitely have to look because I don't know that I know off the top of my head the exact number for like the Pachityas. I know it's like, I think it's 100 something. So I'd have to make sure I know the number range. The Sagya Pachityas, I think, is like 60, something like that. Let's see. But yeah, we could do it. We could do that for certain. Although I still find the random word brings up some interesting rules. I think I like the word stuff better. But we'll have to see how it goes. I am very grateful to Karuna for helping me to develop these interesting things to do on Dhammapalooza. So if anybody else has any ideas, please feel free to share them. Is there something that applies to monastics? Hmm. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, not like in the way of Sigalovada. There's nothing that I can think of that spells it out like, a good friend, a bad friend, or whatever. But in the way of like what monastics should and should not be doing, there's plenty of like what's wrong livelihood for a monastic, etc. And so the idea is to avoid being around these kind of monks. I don't know if there's anything like very like pinpoint specific in terms of for monastics like that. Dalcia, I don't know. There's not much for me to say. You made a comment and you had kind of an exploration, and I think that's good. Um, we could read, you know, one of the things that I did as I was reading through the suttas in the Vinaya, I have like a compendium, like things I copy pasted and notes, and so I wrote like I think it's a 6-part series of articles where I compiled all these like great little sutta snippets and Vinaya snippets for like how a monastic should be. We could read something like that. You probably find some interesting stuff in there. Um, yeah, Gregory, I don't think that's to do with monastics specifically. The dirty cloth one is from um, removing anger for people too. It's like the 555 and the 556. Removing anger for people too is like, you see that somebody has, you try to see that they have some good qualities. Like there's a little part of the cloth that's clean. Or yeah, that's not really for monastics specifically. For removal of agitation for a person, that famous one, not the first one, that's what most people know, but the second one is where you see those similes. It's not really Buddhist, but can you explain the difference between an atheist and a nihilist? I think an atheist can come up with some kind of meaning to live life. I think as far as I can understand, a nihilist is kind of immersed in the view that there really is no meaning to life at all. I think that's really the main difference. I think they can overlap in a person, but I don't think that they are um, connected at the hip, as it were. Oh, why is Sigalovada called Singala Sutta? Because I believe Sigalovada is the name of the person, the layperson in that sutta. That's why people, yes, Singala is the name of the sutta. It's kind of like people say Kalama Sutta all the time, but that's actually not what it's called. It's called Kesaputya Sutta. So I think it's just kind of a common memory, um, what is used most? Well, it depends on what you mean by atheistic. It depends on what you mean. Because some people would say that, like, you're not atheist if you believe in, like, Thor and Odin and things like that. Even though if you're not monotheist, you're not atheist, right? And so there are lots of different beings, devas and things like that. So it depends on what you mean by atheist as to whether Buddhism is atheistic or not. All right. Let's read some suttas for inspiration of monastics. Well, anybody, but a lot of them are specifically talking about monasticism. All right. Cultivating joy in the practice. I think the joy of the practice comes from, you know, it takes a while, but when you see the benefits of the practice, that's when the joy comes. It's just, when you develop, and also when you see a lot of meaning in something, doing it usually brings joy. So if you're deriving meaning and peace and contentment from a practice, then naturally joy will arise while you're doing it. And Pali, it's pamoja, right? Buddha talks about pamoja as something that arises in the practice. That doesn't mean it's always there, but I think also people tend to, when they think of something like joy or happiness, they think of like a euphoria. And joy doesn't necessarily need to be like a euphoria. It could be just like a peaceful contentedness. Like it's joyful to do the practice and to live skillfully, etc. Karuna, yeah, that's the chakra. Yeah, this is all about the going up and down the Ganges. It's when the Buddha is talking about the people who do not believe in efficacy of action, like the Ajivikas, the people who don't believe in karma, as Gregory has mentioned here. Yeah. All right, let's do some reading. Just as the ocean is stable and does not overstep its tide line, in the same way my disciples do not, even for the sake of their lives, overstep the training rules I have formulated for them. This one is so important. This one actually, if we talk about joy, this one brings up joy for me. Like, I have so much just love and confidence and joy in this path that I actually want to strive to live like this, even though it's almost a near impossibility in the modern world. But I want to live like this. Like, to think about, like, even for the sake of my life, I would not overstep even a small training rule. Like, that's such a wonderful mindset of practice. So this is something that, and it's not a coincidence that it's the very first one. It's not a coincidence at all. This is very obvious. And to me, for monastics, this should be like one of the top reflections. All right, the next one. It is in such a way, bhikkhus, that this clansman has gone forth, yet he is covetousness, inflamed by lust for sensual pleasures, with a mind full of ill will, with intentions corrupted by hate, muddle-minded, lacking clear comprehension. So this is the kind of monks you don't want to be around. Right? Lacking clear comprehension, unconcentrated, scatterbrained, loose in their sense faculties. Just as a brand from a funeral pyre, burning at both ends and smeared with excrement in the middle, cannot be used as timber either in the village or in the forest, in just such a way do I speak about this person. He has missed out on the enjoyments of a householder, yet does not fulfill the goal of asceticism. Right? This is pretty much, in my opinion, this answers your question, Gregory. Right? This is like the Buddha is saying, this person has gone forth, so he's given up on all the pleasures of being a lay person, but he has no idea how to be a monastic, so he has no joy from the monastics either. So he's like basically like miserable on both ends. It's like, well, you gave up all these things to be a monastic, and you're a miserable monastic, and you're a horrible monastic, so you're basically screwed on both ends. It's like, what's the point of this? Right? Scatterbrained, like a stick with feces. Ay, yeah. That's pretty harsh words, but the Buddha is harsh. With certain things, he is harsh, and he needs to be, because sometimes people need to hear harsh. Flowers. At Savati. Bhikkhus, I do not dispute with the world. Rather, it is the world that disputes with me. A proponent of the Dhamma does not dispute with anyone in the world. Another thing that I try to follow very closely. I love that statement. Silent in body, silent in speech, silent in mind. There's another. Silent in body, speech, and mind, not just speech. Without defilement, blessed with silence is the sage. One is truly washed of evil. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Kosambi in Gosita's park. Then, in the morning, the Blessed One, dressed in taking bowl and robe, entered Kosambi for alms. When he had walked for alms in Kosambi and had returned from the alms round, after his meal, he set his lodgings in order himself, took his bowl and robe without informing his personal attendants, without taking leave of the Bhikkhu Sangha. He set out on tour alone, without a compassion. So this is an excerpt from a very famous Majjhima Nikaya, where the monastics where the Buddha is staying are quarreling, and the Buddha tries to interject and say, well, what's going on here? And they say, don't worry about it. Don't, like, they kind of are basically like telling the Buddha to take a hike. And so the Buddha does. So he's like, okay, well, I'm not hanging out with these people. I'm leaving. So another role model for monastics. If all you have around you is a bunch of, indigent monastics, try to find a better place. Right? Don't stick with a bunch of incorrigible indigent monastics. That's not going to be of benefit to you. And so then the line here, friend, whenever the Blessed One sets out like that, he wishes to dwell alone. On such occasion, the Blessed One should not be followed by anyone. All right. With yourselves as an island. Bhikkhus, dwell with yourselves as an island, with yourselves as a refuge, with no other refuge. With the Dhamma as an island, with the Dhamma as a refuge, with no other refuge. When you dwell with yourselves as an island, with yourselves as a refuge, with no other refuge, with the Dhamma as an island, with the Dhamma as a refuge, with no other refuge. Probably should have cut that because that's a excerpt and it makes no sense to end right there because he's saying, all right, he should speak and explain the Dhamma. He should raise high the seer's banner. And this is where we get the Maggasekha, the little icons I put in the Discord. Mountain, fire, banner, lion. Right? The banner is the Dhamma of seers. And the Buddha is saying you should speak and explain the Dhamma. You should raise high the seer's banner. Like a soldier raises high the banner, right, for all to see. Well-spoken words are the seer's banner, for the Dhamma is the banner of seers. And how, elder, is dwelling alone fulfilled in detail? Here, elder, what lies in the past has been abandoned. What lies in the future has been relinquished. And desire and lust for present forms of individual existence has been thoroughly removed. And is in such a way, elder, that dwelling alone is fulfilled. If one can find a worthy friend, a virtuous, steadfast companion, then overcome all threats of danger and walk with him content and mindful. But if one finds no worthy friend, no virtuous, steadfast companion, then as a king leaves his conquered realm, walk like a tusker in the woods alone. Better it is to walk alone. There is no companionship with fools. Walk alone and do no evil, at ease like a tusker in the woods. Bhikkhus, dreadful are gain, honor, and praise, bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. This one was something that I reflected on often in my early days when Bhante Ji kind of threw me into teaching, and I kept getting people like, oh, but I like your talks, Bhante. I'm getting lots of praise. And this came up to me like... like the saying goes, like in ancient Rome, when a conquering general came and had his triumph, the parade in Rome. And as he was in his chariot and the whole, city was cheering for him, and there was a slave that said, "Thou art mortal," right? Like whispered in the ear. And like when I was, kind of in those early days with all that praise, I was like the Buddha was whispering in my ear, dreadful is praise, honor, and gain, is destructive to the holy life. Don't get wrapped up in it, right? Praise, honor, and gain are not worth being attached to. If they arise, run away. Because, be careful, be very wary of these things. And so this is a good one. This is when Mahakassapa, who's my, what would you say, disciple, ancient Buddhist disciple, spirit animal, who's the one I connect with the most. When he's complaining to the Buddha, how is it that the monks back in the day used to be awesome, and now the monks right now are kind of like, ugh. And so this is the response. Just so, Kassapa, in the past the elder bhikkhus were forest dwellers and spoke in praise of forest dwelling. They were alms food eaters and spoke in praise of eating alms food. They were rag robe wearers and spoke in praise of wearing rag robes. They were triple robe users and spoke in praise of using the triple robe. Triple robe is the Antaravasika, or in the Thai they call it the sabang, or the sarang. It's the cloth that goes around the waist. This is the upper robe. And then there's the sangati, which is the outer robe. That's the triple robe. Uttara sangha this is what this is called. And the sangati, which is when the monks do chanting, you see the robe like this, which is the cloak or the blanket, keep you nice and warm. And so this is the only robes. You didn't have all kinds of extra. There's lots of rules about having all kinds of extra robes and all kinds of things like that. So they weren't like collecting robes, right? They spoke in praise of using the triple robe. There were a few wishes and spoke in praise of fewness of wishes. They were content and spoke in praise of contentment. They were secluded and spoke in praise of solitude. They were aloof from society and spoke in praise of aloofness from society. They were energetic and spoke in praise of arousing energy. So many of these, could be worked on in the monastic sangha of today. So many. This is at least, see, these are also like, when I contemplate the Maggasekha monastic sangha, these are my guiding principles. These are the kind of things that I want the monastics to be like. I want myself to be like. And, for the most part, I'm pretty good, not too bad. I'm not great. But, if you're in a well-supported, good, secluded place, then it's easier to follow these rules very well. Good, there are no blue robes. Yeah. Gregory, therein lies the rub. Kind of hard to build a monastery if one is not famous, though. Yes and no. All right. Most of the places. Was Bhante G famous by the time when he started Bhavana Society? Yeah, not really. Ajahn Brahm, when he was vice abbot, was not really. Although Ajahn Brahm thing, that was an Ajahn Chah lineage thing, so it wasn't really about him. And the Bhante G thing, the Bhavana thing, he did have connections in DC. So yeah, you need to be able to have a certain level of support to start out, and the growth of the monastery or the organization does depend on the growth of the people who want to be a part of it. There is no escaping that. This is true. This is definitely true. This is one of the things that I contemplated in those early days, like when I started getting a lot of praise for my teachings and stuff. I was like, I don't want to be famous. Like I don't want to be the monk who's traveling 8 months out of the year and traveling and teaching everywhere. That's just, I mean, I like traveling, I do, but this is what I decided. What kind of a monk do I want to be? Do I want to be a traveling famous teaching monk, or do I want to be a monk that successfully creates 12 traveling teaching monks? And so it's the latter for me. I want to build good monastics. I'll still train and teach and things like that. And I am lucky, and I have a weapon that people like Ajahn Brahm and Bhante G didn't have. I have the internet, so I don't have to travel as much. I can, especially when I get that Starlink, and then I can have good streaming even in the some remote part of the Colorado Rockies. So at least that's the hope and the plan. We'll see. Karuna says, Bhante, why Venerable Kassapa? A few things. Well, he's hardcore, and I am hardcore. I like the I like the kind of like we should be hardcore practicing and things like that. Like I have that strain in me. I am the hardcore kind of a person. And even when I was at Bhavana, when I was kind of stable and supported, I was practicing at least half of the Dhutanga rules. Like I want to be a hardcore forest monk. Like that's actually where I kind of feel happy. I want to be that kind of a monastic. So I have that kind of wanting to be an ascetic in the forest drive. Also, I like the the complaining about, look at these people, these monks. They used to be like, I see myself in that a little bit. Mahakassapa like bemoaning how things have degraded, and kind of almost like drill sergeanty, like what are you doing? Why are these monks so lazy and blah blah blah? That's also definitely part of me, and also his love of nature, right? The oldest nature poetry in the world, as far as we know. Like the joy of being in nature, being in the mountains, being in the forest, is in the Therigatha, his verses. Like all of those things connect, with me, with Mahakassapa. There's just, if he wasn't already awakened, I would say like I was probably him. Obviously I can't be because he's fully awakened. He's not around anymore. But yeah, I feel most connected out of all the disciples to Mahakassapa. Certainly. All right. Good, there are no blue robes. Yes, there's very specific colors that are not allowed, like blue and green and red and black and purple. Things like that. Forgiveness in the Dhamma. But since you see your transgression as a transgression and make amends for it in accordance with the Dhamma, we pardon you for it. For it is growth in the noble one's discipline when one sees one's transgression as a transgression, make amends for it in accordance with the Dhamma, and undertake future restraint. This is so beautiful. What is growth in the Dhamma? Messing up. That's growth in the Dhamma. like if you don't mess up, there's no opportunity for growth. But the growth also, part of that framework of this is growth in the Dhamma is that you're truthful to yourself. You're not accepting all kinds of, when you do something wrong, all kinds of justifications that arise in your mind. Well, I mean, they made me, blah, blah, all that kind of you say, no, that's a bunch of bull. I'm not listening to that, nor am I accepting any of these justifications. I have transgressed, right? Like that's what when you recognize, yes, I have transgressed. I'm taking full responsibility for it. I am responsible for my actions. No justifications, no BS. Then you say, okay, yes, I've done this. And then you make amends for it, right? You make amends for it in accordance with the Dhamma is usually means like confess, apologize. It could be making financial amends, whatever, making amends for whatever wrong you've done, and then sincerely trying to not do it in the future or doing better in the future. Now, you can sincerely keep doing the same thing over and over again and being stupid and being bad over and over again. And that can try the patience of people. It really can. But if you are honestly, sincerely, really trying, and people see that, then they can see at least you are trying to some kind of a level. And if you are, and that also is the factor of growth, that you are actually trying. Because what that means is you will get better. With each cycle of messing up, you will have that much little bit more wisdom so that your restraint will be better in the future. It just takes a lot of time, and that's okay. Going forth as a thief of the Dhamma in such a well-expounded Dhamma and discipline as this has results that are far more painful, far more bitter. So a thief in the Dhamma is what the Buddha talks about, somebody who maybe they're ordained as a monk, they're wearing robes or whatever, but their actions are really bad. They do bad things. They don't practice. They're not really a monk, even though they might have a shaved head and wear a robe. This is a thief in the Dhamma. And it's really bad for karma-wise. It's not good. Far more bitter, and further it leads to the netherworld. But since you see your transgression as a transgression, and make amends for it in accordance with the Dhamma, we pardon you for it is growth in the Noble One's discipline. When one sees one's transgression as a transgression, make amends for it in accordance with the Dhamma, and undertakes future restraint. The monk, nun, male lay follower, or female lay follower who keeps practicing the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma, who keeps practicing masterfully, who lives in accordance with the Dhamma, that is the person who worships, honors, respects, venerates, and pays homage to the Tathagata with the highest homage. That's an important one, right? How do you pay respects, the best respects to the Buddha? Is it just, bowing 108 times a day to a Buddha statue? Making sure that the altar has flowers and such, all these kind of things? Or is it actually practicing the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma? The Buddha is very clear in this. It's practicing the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. That is the highest respect to the Buddha. It's not saying that all the other stuff is not respectful. It is. Or it's not that it's not meritorious. It is. But the highest respect is that you actually practice what the Buddha... the Buddha went through all of this to set up the Mahasangha, to set up the Fourfold Assembly, to teach the Dhamma. The highest, gratitude, the highest honor is going to be that you actually practice it and become awakened. At least follow the Noble Eightfold Path. So it's obvious that that's going to be the best. So Karuna, yes, you must have, what you call it, spaced out. A thief in the Dhamma is somebody who um, has the outward appearance of a monk. Maybe they're even officially ordained. They have a shaved head. They wear their robes, but they are, they're unrestrained. They're bad. They break rules. They're even evil. Like they're kind of, they are essentially giving monasticism a bad name and not living as a monastic, even though they have the outer trappings of a monastic. They are causing lots of havoc, lots of bad things. That's a thief in the Dhamma. And actually, we can see here, this next one, not the next one, but the one after it. Ochre necks. A thief in the Dhamma is an ochre neck. Monks who don't act like monks. Thieves in the Dhamma, right? You see that in the suttas. Ochre necks. And you see in the Vinaya too, the Buddha using this term. So this is not from the suttas, but this is, to me, on point. I love, love, love this statement. And it's from, that book, The Lives of the Buddha's Disciples. It's not a direct sutta quote. I very clearly say that. But the true middle way is not a comfortable highway built out of easy compromises, but a lonely, steep ascent, which requires the renunciation of craving and the ability to endure hardship and discomfort. This is almost as true as it gets when it comes to the path. This is just such a wonderful, wonderful statement. 100% true. It's not a comfortable highway built on easy compromises. It's just like in the I'm blanking out on Kamada Sutta that we read, right? The Deva coming to the Buddha and saying, it's hard, Holy One. And the Buddha said, well, they do it even though it's hard. Right? Like this, I love that statement. I really do. Yeah, but I mean, if someone's improperly ordained, but they're like a good monk and they practice and they, like, I wouldn't call them a thief in the Dhamma. And it depends on what you mean by improperly ordained. Like if they're like not really officially ordained and they put on robes or whatever, you can maybe use that. But if there's like, some kind of legalistic reason why they're not properly ordained and they're still good monks, I would not call them a thief in the Dhamma. I'd call them not legally ordained. They need to get legally ordained. Maybe that's a different story. Oh, hello, Malika. Oh, it's good to see you with us. Hope you're doing well down in Brisbane. All right, Gregory says, Bante, we are encouraged to develop friendships with those similar spiritual development or better. But what if less developed people want to associate with you to develop better qualities? I don't. Where is this said? That people who are with similar spiritual development are better. I don't know that's a thing in the suttas. This is somebody can be less developed than you, but can still be a good Kalyanamitta. So I don't know, like, if they are less developed, if they're on the path, they're on the path. If they're doing, if they're sincerely practicing, then what's wrong? And they're good, people. They're good Kalyana Mitta. Then of course you should have such people. The longer you go on the path, you're going to have people who are ahead of you, and the further you go on, you have fewer people ahead of you and more people behind you. That's just how it goes. So it's not about like your level of development. As a matter of fact, I think that if you're too focused on, I need to have people who are always higher and developed than me, then that can lead you astray. It's like the people who are always trying to, they want their teacher to be known as an arahant, so that maybe they think that that'll make it easier for them to get advanced. That's not actually how it works. But like that can be like not an unwholesome, but not the most skillful way of doing things. So that's what I would say. It's not about if they're higher level of development than you or not. It's about if they're sincerely practicing Kalyana Mitta. That's the most important thing. Ah, you had temporary ordination in Sri Lanka. Oh, I hope that went well. Ah, hello, Kim. Welcome. I'm actually surprised they gave temporary ordination in Sri Lanka. I understand that that's pretty rare, but death. This is actually sometimes I look at like people who are in that phase that I remember so fondly, where I was so zealous and so it was like so great. I like I kind of look back at that phase of like, I wish I was like that now. But it's not. I'm in a different phase, a different kind of way. So I have to deal with that. But like sometimes I do look at like I kind of live vicariously through the people in that phase. Like, oh yes, I remember that phase. That was great. Yep, and it's just like how being around kids a lot can kind of keep you young. Being around people who are in that phase can kind of remind you of you know zeal and energy. All right, let's read a little bit more, and then we should do our guided meditation soon. Now, this you don't see in the suttas, I don't believe, but this is part of the Vinaya. This is kind of like a reflection on why you do what you do. And you can actually kind of see here, this is actually a good thing for lay people to see, because it kind of gives you an understanding of why certain things are done, right? So, discipline, so this would be your sila, etc., for the sake of restraint. And so you're talking about like, starting for your sila, sense restraint. Sense restraint for the sake of freedom from remorse. Freedom from remorse for the sake of joy. Joy for the sake of rapture. Rapture for the sake of tranquility. Tranquility for the sake of pleasure. And obviously this is like jhanic samadhi pleasure. This is not sense pleasures. Very different pleasure. Pleasure for the sake of concentration. Concentration for the sake of knowledge and vision of things as they are. Knowledge and vision of things as they are for the sake of disenchantment. Disenchantment for the sake of release. Release for the sake of knowledge and vision of release. Knowledge and vision of release for the sake of total unbinding without clinging. Like, that's a really good statement to reflect on. Like, why you're doing all of these different things. One should resort to remote lodgings, practice for release from the fetters, but if one does not find delight there, guarded and mindful dwell in the Sangha. So this is another interesting statement. the encouragement is to dwell kind of secluded, either alone or in very small groups, out in the wilderness. But if doesn't work for you, then be mindful and dwell among, in monasteries and whatever. So like, again, this is a kind of understanding of the different modes of practice, the different places where people are, etc. Because not everybody is going to kind of be comfortable and really be inclined to practice in remote places for whatever reasons. So dwell in the Sangha, no problem. And you're not going to see monks being like, you stupid, you can't even hang out in the forest for a week, you're a weak monk. No, you're not going to see that. That's not how it goes. Walking for alms from family to family, faculties guarded, discreet and mindful. One should resort to remote lodgings, freed from fear, liberated in the fearless. These two actually are big for me as well, especially with all my experiences of meditating and being in the woods at night and things like that. I remember years ago, I actually requested if anybody would be able to draw this, and I actually have. Somebody actually drew it. I have the PDF, like whatever the digital version and the physical version. Because this was such a profound vision for me. Where terrible serpents glide, where lightning flashes and the sky thunders, in the thick darkness of the night, there sits a bhikkhu devoid of terror. That's a profound, profound imagery. Right? All of these things that would make the average person be afraid and scared and, trembling. There's a monk, peace, content, not afraid. Like, okay, yep, that's an ideal to strive for right there. That's great. Let's maybe read one more. Oh no, two more. It's okay. However young, the seeker who sets out upon the way shines bright over the world by day and night. The man who is awake shines in radiance of the spirit. Meditate, live purely, be quiet, do your work with mastery. Like the moon, come out from behind the clouds. Shine. Right? Shine like the moon. It's beautiful. And so, many of you have heard me talk about this. When I talk about how people get so upset over like minor rules, like monks in temples, they have TVs. Maybe they watch some some TV or something like that, and people freak out like, oh my God, I can't believe monks do this when it's such a minor rule. But then in the same breath, they give envelopes of money to monks, which is very common across all of Theravada. There's even less stringent rules about that in Mahayana. But in Theravada, like the rules are supposed to be like, you're not handling money. But everywhere as a monk, people are just giving you envelopes of money, right? Not only is that a much stronger rule about monks using money, but the Buddha backs it up with this. This in my opinion is way more important than the actual rule itself. If gold and silver are allowable to anyone, the 5 cords of sensual pleasures are allowable for them. They have money, they can do all kinds of things, get all kinds of things for please the senses. If the 5 cords of sensual pleasures are allowable for anyone, you can definitely consider him to be one who does not have the character of an ascetic or a follower of the Sakyan sun. Right, so the Buddha is basically saying, like, if you're using money, you are not a monastic. Doesn't matter if you have robes, a shaved head, yada yada yada, etc. Like the Buddha is very like hardcore, straight up. This is not the characteristic of a monastic if you're using money. Like, priorities straight here, people. It's like just, I'm not gonna care if I stay in a monastery, a city monastery, and the people they're watching TV or whatever. You know, the money thing is way worse, and way harmful to the sangha than anything like that, any minor thing like that. The money thing is so not good, and the Buddha is very clear of this. Absolutely very clear of this. Now, if you're using money, you are not a monastic. You do not have the characteristics of a monastic. A Sakyan son, Sakyaputta, that's a monastic. Sakyadita is a bhikkhuni. Sakyaputta, bhikkhu, Sakyadita, bhikkhuni. That's it. When my Dhamma sister, Bhikkhuni Tavira, became fully ordained back in June, I was one of the monks there that was part of her ordination. And the first thing I said to her was, "Welcome, Dita, like welcome, sister, right? Welcome, daughter of the Buddha, daughter of the Sakya." I love that. Anyway, so I think we are good for that. So many people, 17 people, and the chat is like empty. Well, I guess maybe some people are so enraptured by these wonderful, wonderful statements of Dhamma and how monastics should live. I mean, a lot of this also fits with lay people as well, but these are wonderful statements of how one should live in the Dhamma. All right. I'll make sure that I post that link in the description. There's 5 volumes of that. Like, if you're interested in reading these, I have 5 articles worth of quotes like that. And there's actually more. I probably could have did 7 or 8. I had more. But, all right. Yeah, so we're way past. So let's do some meditation. I don't know. I guess I can assume most of the people here have heard my meditations many times. So we're not going to do a guided. We'll just do a silent meditation together until I ring the bell. Slowly open your eyes, becoming aware of the room around you, your body's position in it. Reflecting on the state of your mind before and after the meditation, and contemplating any experiences that may have stood out. Let's read some Dhammapada for a little bit before doing final business, sharing merit, and closing out. Papa, evil. Hasten to do good. Restrain your mind from evil. He who is slow in doing good, his mind delights in evil. Should a person commit evil, let him not do it again and again. Let him not find pleasure therein, for painful is the accumulation of evil. Should a person do good, let him do it again and again. Let him find pleasure therein, for blissful is the accumulation of good. It may be well with the evildoer as long as the evil ripens not, but when it does ripen, then the evildoer sees the painful results of his evil deeds. It may be ill with the doer of good as long as the good ripens not, but when it does ripen, the doer of good sees the pleasant results of his good deeds. Think not lightly of evil, saying, "It will not come to me." Drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the fool, gathering it little by little, fills himself with evil. Think not lightly of good, saying, "It will not come to me." Drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the wise man, gathering it little by little, fills himself with good. Just as a trader with a small escort and great wealth would avoid a perilous route, or just as one desiring to live avoids poison, even so should one shun evil. If on the hand there is no wound, one may carry even poison in it. Poison does not affect one who is free of wounds. For him who does no evil, there is no ill. Like fine dust thrown against the wind, evil falls back upon that fool who offends an inoffensive, pure, and guiltless man. Some are born in the womb, the wicked are born in hell, the devout go to heaven, the stainless pass into Nibbana. Neither in the sky, nor in mid-ocean, nor by entering in mountain clefts, nowhere in the world is there a place where one may escape from the result of evil deeds. Neither in the sky, nor in the ocean, nor by entering into mountain clefts, nowhere in the world is there a place where one will not be overcome by death. All right, friends. Well, we have come to the end of another Dhammapalooza. So let's do some final business. So if you are listening for the first time and you'd like to find out more information about myself, Bhante Jayasara, and the organization I'm building, Maggasekha, you can go to the link on the screen right now, maggasekha.org, maggasekha.org. Here you will find all the information, all the updates, everything I do, all the activities on all the different social media platforms and everything, etc. You can find it all there. That is my headquarters. You can find it there. So let's share merit. Hello, Gayatri. Welcome. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, sokha patta chane sokha, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata chamehi sampatang punya sampatang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya, Akasata Chabumata Deva Naga Maedika Punyang Tang Anumoditva Chirang Rakantu Sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends, so we've come to the end of another Dhammapalooza. Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy and at ease, practice well and be well, and may you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again, which, if I'm alive tomorrow morning, could be joining us every weekday at 8 a.m. New York time for Morning Monastery Experience. I stream live every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., or perhaps on Insight Timer next Saturday with normal Insight Timer session at 3 p.m., or perhaps even on the Discord, our sutta reading every Sunday night at 7, or if I'm around next week for another Dhammapalooza. Have a good week.